The state's Ministry of Economic Development has mapped out strategies to ensure the success of government's economic policies. At a meeting to sensitize its staff on the need for cooperation and support of the policy, the Permanent Secretary, Mr. Yakubu Mana, said that every economic policy of the government must be properly articulated in the coming year's capital estimates. The story is presented in our studios.
The Permanent Secretary, Mr. Yakubu Mana, stressed the need to engage statisticians in the field of economic planning and statistics. He charged the staff to be focused and embrace the culture of personal discipline as they set to articulate medium-term blueprints in line with the budgetary framework. Mr. Mana, who noted that the government was committed to industrializing Akwa Ibom, said that a committee had been set up to look into the development of the Baka deep sea port.
This meeting is called my instance to reappraise and re-strategize our operation as planners and statisticians generally, and more specifically equip ourselves as we prepare the 2016 capital estimates.
In his remarks, the Director of Planning in the Ministry, Mr. Nsudo, said that innovation and effectiveness were some of the key responsibilities that experts in economic planning must imbibe, and urged participants to utilize the experience they will acquire during the meeting to improve on their job performances.
Take what we are doing more serious, because we are now being benchmarked by a larger group. And in the particular case of Akwa Ibom, a number of people are taking more interest, and more high-level professionals are being drafted in, and we cannot be seen to be incapable for what we know we can do very well.
More news after the break. Stay with us.
All of us. The safety of our communities is in our hands. The police need our help and support. Boko Haram threatens our lives, our future, our country. But Nigeria belongs to us. God has blessed us with this rich land. Let us protect her as we protect each other. Report any criminal activity. Call these numbers. Your call is anonymous, and it is vitally important. Your support so far has been critical. Continuing it will make all the difference between a Nigeria of the fearful and a Nigeria of the free. Protect each other, for we are not terrorists. We are State Security Service.
You're watching KBC 45 News at Dawn. Thanks for staying in with us. A one-day induction seminar for newly recruited and other staff of the State Budget Office has ended in Uyo. The seminar took place at the multipurpose hall of the Governor's Office Annex on Wellington Basiwe, Uyo. Livingstone Daniel reports that the participants were drilled on the rules of budgetary procedures.
Declaring the events open, the Permanent Secretary, State Budget Office, Pastor Nicholas Ekarika, said training is a process of impacting and developing one's knowledge, skills, aptitude, and habits necessary in preparing the individual for his assigned work in government. He emphasized that the policy thrust of the present administration in the state is to train and retrain the workforce for effective service delivery. Pastor Ekarika said that the induction seminar was part of the training programs of the state government for the new entrant into the service, and tasked them to be serious with the lectures and ask questions where they are not properly cleared.
Today marks another milestone in the history of this great office since 2011, when we were upgraded from Department of Budget to a State Budget Office. We have been lying with government commitment and policy, train and retrain staff of the State Budget Office on administrative and budgetary procedure regular. Let me use this opportunity to congratulate the newly recruited staff and indeed the entire budget staff.
Presenting a paper on the topic, Personnel Administration in Government and Structure of the State Budget Office, the head of Administration and Supplies, Mr. Champion Abasute, said that government performed varieties of functions and responsibilities ranging from maintenance of law and order to a more complex responsibility of production and equitable distribution of goods and services. The need for government to perform these functions and discharge such crucial function, according to him, calls for a group called the civil servant to transform into concrete realities the wishes of the government.
Some administrators or managers regard people as their greatest assets. Be informed that without people, that is the civil servant in this, since we are in the public sector. The people in this case is the civil servants, you and me. It will be highly difficult to translate the programs and policies of the politicians, no matter how well intended and lofty it may be, without the civil servant.
The topic, ethics and regulations in the civil service, was handled by Ms. Ibore Evans. He said ethics are moral principles that control or influence one's behavior. He listed loyalty, honesty, courage, courtesy, cooperation, tax and industry, adding also that good public image, justice and fairness, attitude to public funds, fairness in exercise of authority, and flexibility in decision making are some ethical requirements needed for effective and efficient functioning in the service.
Defines as moral principles that control or influence a person's behavior. Therefore, we have a professional, we have a business, we have work ethics, and in our case, we have civil service ethics. And these are the principles that say what is right and what is wrong.
The administrative officer, one Mr. Nsikaniyan, who presented a paper on official correspondence and public service abbreviations, said official correspondence is the exchange of letters and other written communication between the employer and the employee. Memo, reports, minutes of meetings, manuals, gazettes are some forms of official correspondence in the civil service. According to Ms. Yang, the civil service has some recognized abbreviation for easy running of government offices. They include BU for bringing up on a later date, TNA, take necessary action, KIV, keep in view, PA, puts away, and AC, action completed.
It is to be noted that these official forms of correspondence used in the civil service has its own style and language as approved and adopted. Thus, as stated earlier, official correspondence is not only through letters, but also through, you have memorandum.
Other papers presented were records keeping and file management in open registry by Mrs. Dorothea Kanam, while Mrs. Elizabeth Udofia spoke on the topic records and file management in the secret registry. Speaking on behalf of the participant, Mr. Faithful Uko and Mrs. Etienne Obia described the appointment as an opportunity for them to contribute to the development of the state, noting that with the seminar they are better equipped for the challenges ahead.
On behalf of all the newly recruited staff, senior staff, I want to say big thank you to the Permanent Secretary and all the resource persons present here today.
On behalf of the newly recruited junior staff, say that we are grateful for the opportunity to be here.
Livingstone Daniel reporting.
The 2015 annual Inter-House Sports Competition of Atinan Institute Atinan has ended with pomp and pageantry. The competition, which drew dignitaries from across the state, was tagged Centenary Inter-House Sports and took place in the school's compound. The story is presented in our studios.
The sports meet saw students compete in various track and field sports, among which were relay races, invitational races, cultural display, and march past. The principal of the school, Elder Ebon, in his welcome remarks, acknowledged the excitement the sporting events have offered the students and believe that it also offered them opportunity to hunt for talent in different sports for the state. The second called for assistance for more teachers to be posted to the school, provision of beds for both male and female makers, among others.
It's an avenue for selections of the future stars for the country. We hope therefore that today's competition will bring to limelight the likes of Sunday Rise, Samuel Peters, and Joma.
Guests who attended the inter-house sports competition, including the school's PTA chairman, Obong Inyeshet, commended the school's management for molding the students' character.
This school, has produced a lot of people to be reckoned with in this part of these states and beyond.
5 houses of pink, blue, green, red, and yellow competed for the various sports. Pink House came tops with 299 points, Blue House second with 275 points, while Blue House took the third position with 230 points.
Nigeria gets $2.1 billion loan to build Northeast, and fear grips Burundi over violent outcome of presidential election. These and more on our foreign news segment brought to you by Samuel Ayara.
Best rights group, the Human Rights Watch, has accused South Sudan government forces and allied fighters of carrying out scores of killings, rapes, and burning of civilian properties. These deliberate attacks, the group said, took place during the offensive between April and June 2015 and amounts to war crime. The group laid claims to having information on about 60 unlawful killings of civilian women, men, and children, which they allege were brutally executed, including hanging, shooting, and being burnt alive. The Human Rights Watch has urged the United Nations Security Council to consider expanding targeted individual sanctions on commanders and others responsible for crimes committed during the Unity State offensive. Tension is building up in Burundi after the violence that broke out during voting in the country's presidential polls. It is reported that less than 3/4 of the country's 3.8 million eligible voters turned out after gunfires and explosions that claimed lives. The government is accusing the opposition of provoking protests, according to the president's chief communication advisor, Willy Nyamiture. President Pierre Nkurunziza, who is allegedly running for a 3rd term, is doing so against Burundi's constitutional provision of 2 terms. Meanwhile, the European Union, United Nations, and African Union says they will not recognize results of the elections, even as the opposition are now calling for a unity government, describing the elections as controversial. Less than 13 people have been killed in a bomb explosion in Cameroon. The attack on the little village in the eastern part of the country is suspected to have been carried out by members of the Boko Haram group. Cameroon is reported to be coming under recent attacks because of its assistance in combating insurgency in Nigeria. President Muhammadu Buhari has restated his appreciation to the United States for its support and assistance to Nigeria in the conduct of the 2015 general elections. The president made his gratitude known in Washington, D.C. when he met with the United States Secretary of State, John Kerry. Kerry, in his remarks, expressed the determination of the American government to partner with Nigeria in tackling problems of insecurity, corruption, and other socio-economic vices facing the country. The U.S. Secretary of State described Buhari as an intelligent retired military officer and expressed confidence in his leadership ability. Nigeria's government has obtained a $2.1 billion credit from the World Bank to rebuild the crisis-torn Northeast region. Announcing in Washington, D.C., President Muhammadu Buhari, who is currently on a 4-day official visit to the United States, said the money would assist the government to build infrastructure in the area. Apart from infrastructure, Buhari said that priority will also be given to resettlement of internally displaced persons. He called on the World Bank to send a team to work with the federal government in carrying out proper needs assessment of the people in the zone. According to an agreement reached, first 10 years of the loan will be interest-free, while an additional 30 years will attract interest lower than the capital market rate.
There's in our package to an news in adult stories. A one-week training for youth in the southern Nigeria has begun in Akwa Ibom State's capital. The training organized by the West Africa Cultural Productivity Program, WAP. Nigeria has encouraged the youth to participate in cultural programs. Our one-day election seminar for newly recruited and other staff of the budget office ended in Uyo. The seminar took place at the multipurpose hall of the governor's office annex on Wellington Basi Way, Uyo. Nigeria gets $2.1 billion to rebuild northeast Nigeria, and fear grieves Burundi over violent outcome of presidential election. That is on the package this morning. Our next bulletin for today comes up at 12 noon. On Today on Nigeria programs, I've been Agnes Ido Kimball. Have a beautiful day ahead.